Donald O'Connor talks about his true feelings about Donna Reed. Donald O'Connor was born Donald David Dixon Ronald O'Connor on August 28, 1925, in Chicago, Illinois. Literally born into show business, O'Connor's parents were vaudeville performers, and from a very young age, he was exposed to the dazzling and demanding world of live entertainment. By the time he was just a toddler, Donald was already on stage with his family, learning the timing, rhythm, and audience connection that would define his career. The O'Connors moved around a lot, touring nationwide, often with the family living out of suitcases. This nomadic lifestyle instilled in Donald an appreciation for showmanship and how to think on his feet, whether on stage or screen. Early life for O'Connor was not without its challenges. The Great Depression, the uncertain nature of vaudeville, and frequently struggling financially, all these things burdened the family. Then, tragedy struck when most of Donald's siblings died in childhood, and his father passed away when Donald was only a boy. His early losses gave him an emotional depth beneath his merry exterior. Rather than making him bitter, he channeled his feelings into performance. He gained the joy of making people laugh, taking them out of their troubles, perhaps because he knew so well what it meant to experience sorrow. This blend of heart and humor would later make his performances seem real and full of life. Donald's entry into film came at an early age when Universal Pictures saw something in him that was quite compelling, charming, and energy-laden. He started acting in films as a child in the 1930s, but stood out with his bright eyes and confident presence. But it wasn't until the 1940s that O'Connor became a true star. During World War II, he appeared in a spate of light-hearted musical comedies that gave audiences a welcome respite from the uncertainty of the times. His singing, dancing, and comedic timing drew comparisons to legends like Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. Yet O'Connor brought something uniquely his own combination of boyish enthusiasm and brilliant slapstick comedy that made him irresistible to watch. Of course, the role that forever cemented Donald O'Connor's place in cinematic history came in 1952 with Singin' in the Rain, alongside Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds. O'Connor gave a performance for the ages as Cosmo Brown, the quick-witted, perennially loyal sidekick with boundless energy and impeccable comedic timing. His unforgettable number, Make 'Em Laugh, remains one of the most iconic scenes in film history, a masterclass in physical comedy, dance precision, and sheer endurance. O'Connor performed that routine with such intensity that he reportedly ended up in the hospital from exhaustion afterwards. Yet on screen, it looked effortless, a pure expression of joy and showmanship that still delights audiences over 70 years later. Singin' in the Rain was followed by many other charming roles in the 1950s and 1960s, including the Francis the Talking Mule series and Call Me Madam, both of which showed O'Connor as equally adept as a comedian or leading man. The Francis series was light, escapist fare, but was hugely successful and made O'Connor a household name. By the time Hollywood had stopped making musicals in large quantity, O'Connor continued on, moving into television and stage work. He hosted The Donald O'Connor Show and appeared on various variety programs where his quick wit and improvisational ability shone as bright as his dancing once had on the silver screen. O'Connor never lost his spark with age. He continued performing deep into older age, appearing in stage productions, television specials, and interviews where he reflected on Hollywood's golden age. Even as his health declined, he retained his humor and sense of gratitude, once joking that he had entertained himself his whole life. His final public appearances showed him proud but still modest and down-to-earth, able to show appreciation for making so many people smile. Donald O'Connor's personal life, if not as highlighted as his extraordinary talents as a dancer, singer, and comedian, was nonetheless interesting to look at in understanding the man behind the laughter. His marriages reveal both a longing for stability and the challenges he faced living under the intense pressures of Hollywood. O'Connor first married Gwen Carter in 1944, during one of the most turbulent yet productive times in his early career. Their marriage initially offered grounding amid the fast-moving world of show business, but the demands of fame and long separations strained the relationship. After a decade, they divorced in 1954. 2 years later, In 1956, O'Connor married the actress and secretary who would steady him, Gloria Noble. The marriage proved to be one of the defining relationships of his life. Moreover, Gloria was a beautiful, warm, and supportive woman who stood by him through the transition from a film star to the challenges of maintaining relevance with the rise of television. Together, they built a family that brought O'Connor that peace that had eluded him for many years. She steadied him, helped him through exhaustion and depression brought on by years of relentless performing. His marriage with Gloria lasted until her death in 2001, and O'Connor spoke about her often and with great affection. Throughout his career, O'Connor worked with many talented actresses, but few left as lasting an impression as Donna Reed. The two knew each other during Hollywood's golden era, when both were building their careers, O'Connor as a dazzling song and dance performer and Reed as one of the most poised and beautiful actresses of her generation. Much later in life, when O'Connor spoke about Reed, his words carried warmth, admiration, and nostalgia for a Hollywood where grace and decency mattered. Donna was one of the kindest, most sincere people I ever met in this business, O'Connor once said. She didn't play the Hollywood game. She was the real thing. He admired her quiet confidence, professionalism, and dignity both on and off screen. He admired how she treated everyone the same, from studio heads to stagehands, something rare in Hollywood. He was deeply impressed by her Oscar-winning role in From Here to Eternity, 1953, where she broke from her girl-next-door image and proved her dramatic strength. O'Connor admired how she balanced her professional and personal life, especially her commitment to her family. He felt that her nature made performances even more real. You could feel her goodness in every role she played. It wasn't just acting. It was who she was. Off-screen, O'Connor said Reed was a consummate professional, on time, prepared, and invariably courteous. If every star behaved like Donna Reed, he once joked, producers would have lived 10 years longer. He also admired Reed for her emotional strength, her integrity, and the ways she remade herself in the second half of her career, including her political activism and her role in Dallas in the 1980s. Whatever Donna did, she always gave her whole heart, O'Connor felt. People talk about glamour and fame, he said softly, in reflecting on her legacy. But when you think about someone like Donna, you remember the grace, the honesty, the decency. She represented the best of what Hollywood could be. For O'Connor, Donna Reed proved you could be a star without losing your soul. Later in life, Donald O'Connor battled a host of health adversities that were almost equal to the levels of incredible physical energy he had invested in his career. In 1990, he underwent quadruple heart bypass surgery, showing that decades of high-energy performance had taken its toll on his body.